Hello my friends, welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to do a review about the Trak Racer Haptic Bass Kit. So what is a bass shaker? Well, I think a lot of you already know what it is, but it's just a puck with some weight in it. It is driven by an amplifier and it will cause for oscillations of the seat or the feet where you put your puck, and it helps with the immersion of simulated driving. So I am very much a fan of haptics in simulated driving. The amplifier has two different channels with an output of 100 watt per channel. There are two channels available, so also the possibility to add a second puck to the amplifier for a total of 200 watts. It features the volume controls for both channels on the front, a high and low cutoff button and selector for the cutoff frequency. Equally on the front there is the jack input for the remote control that comes with it standard. An important specification on the amplifier is that the sound output is mono, meaning you will have the same signal being sent to both pucks. You can vary the intensity of the pucks, but not select which effect and effect intensity goes to which channel. The back of the amplifier shows the different inputs via kinch or jack and the outputs that will be connected to the pucks via standard audio cables. The amplifier can be connected via USB or via a jack to your PC's sound output. I would really recommend the jack in the sound output here, as USB ports will probably be filled with other peripherals already. The puck itself has a maximum output of 100 watt. In comparison with the two very popular pucks, the Dayton BST-1 puck is 50 watt and the puck featuring in the Buttkicker Gamer Pro package is 150 watt. There are currently two different brackets for the pucks available via Trak Racer. The single mount is more suitable to attach to tubular frames, while the other one can be attached to your seat rails or seat brackets, making it sit very nice in the center. So the price is €269, which is about the price that you will see for the mainstream manufacturers that they ask for the haptic systems. Next Level Racing, HF8, around the same price. Buttkicker, in dollars it is the same price, but here in Europe the Buttkicker, I think it is very expensive. I saw it for 350, so the price of Trak Racer is very competitive with the other systems. For the installation it is pretty straightforward. I would say that the one thing that you need to take into account is to think where you will add your puck. So for example, if you place it under your pedals and you can attach it directly to the pedal plate, you don't need an extra holder. But if you will put the puck under your seat, well, there probably you will need to have an extra holder for this puck. So that's the only thing that I can think of, which is really something to think about when installing or when buying and installing this bass shaker kit. So for configuration, Trak Racer has their own software that you can use. When you go into the software, you will see all the effects and the intensity of the effects that you can use. But I have to say that I was not overly impressed with the software. So I tried to use it in ACC, where it worked without any issue. But then I went to BeamNG, for example. There it didn't work. The ETS European Truck Simulator also, it didn't work. So I'm not sure for which games it actually works and for which it doesn't. Perhaps it's also part of the settings in the game, but the problem is that there is not that much of information out there regarding the software. So that is one thing. And another thing, and so I tested it with ACC, and I drove with it, and then I changed it to SimHub, and I tested it out there, and I have to say that the SimHub software just made much more differentiations in the types of in the types of oscillations that you got when you drove around the track. Yeah, this is a bit normal also. SimHub has been around for quite a while, and they really have perfectioned their software. So yeah, I would recommend at this moment with the beta of the Trak Racer software to still use SimHub when you drive the bus shaker of Trak Racer. So the thing when you configure this software is also don't put too much effects on it, don't overdo it on effects. So this depends from person to person what you want to feel. I am very strong, I want to feel the shifting of the car, a bit of the road feeling I want to feel. So there are certain effects that I really want, but do it reasonable. So the puck that they use from Trak Racer is a 100-watt puck, and well, for those who wonder if this is enough, so I have it on now at almost lowest setting, and I will turn it up a bit, and you will probably hear it. So I believe they always say that you need more power. But I think the power that a 100-watt puck generates is already quite enough. There is also, by the way, in the package a very nice remote that you can attach to your rig with 2 bolts, and this is very handy. I know with the butt kicker that there was a remote with it, but then you need to have somewhere the remote that you need to aim at the receiver, and here it is not the case. So you can just turn the little switch down. For example, if your wife or your partner is coming into your space and says that you are making too much noise, you can just tone it down a bit very easily. So very nice that they added it to it. I remember when I tested the Gamer Pro from Buttkicker that it almost shook my rig into pieces when I first tried it out. The Trak Racer puck is 50% less powerful than that one, but it still packs quite a punch, and during my testing it proved to be more than sufficient when it comes to power. Apart from the gear shifts, I didn't put in another effect higher than 50%, and it was more than enough for me. The different effects I selected had quite a large range in frequency, and the differentiation between them was translated well during driving. In general, it responded very well with the road details and the shifting. It felt fluent and fast, but with the exception when I went off the track in ACC, I did feel there was some sort of delay on the haptics, especially when getting back on the track. Now I'm not sure if this is because of the bus shaker going back to its idling position, because of the driving software, or just because of the game. It is certainly noticeable when you are driving with it, but not really all that disturbing. The intention of driving is of course to stay on the road, and in case of off-roading, well, you will not really notice it since you are off the road anyways. Now I had the possibility to add a second puck for under my pedal plate, and it was certainly an addition, but not really the addition I was looking for. Yes, I could also feel the effects now at my feet, but in the 2-puck setup, you really miss the stereo effect and the ability to make your feet feel somewhat different effects or intensities than your butt and back. That being said, the overall driving experience with this set is more than positive. It is one of the reasons why I like the Logitech G Pro also that much. It just brings driving and racing more to life. People sometimes ask, does it make me faster? Well, there are some people that say yes, that you can feel the car better, but I do think that most of the feeling of the car comes from the steering wheel, and that the added immersion, while it gives you a bit of a status of the car, is more for immersion than it is really to enhance your performance on the track. Of course, this is, well, if you go look up the answers, some people will say yes, it is better, it improves my lap times. Others say not really. A question that comes back quite a lot is, can I use these haptic systems on my console? And the answer to this is absolutely you can. What Trak Racer did is they included a splitter cable. With on one hand, yeah, you have the jack, and at the two other you have an input for a jack. So you take your headset and connect it, and you take your amplifier of Trak Racer, and then you just connect it to the sound output of your controller. I made a video about this quite a while back. I will link it in the description or here somewhere. So then you can have some vibrations when on console. Now this uses the sound of the console itself, so it's not really that top of a feeling that you get, especially when you compare it with PC. Another thing that I also noticed is when I use this, the sound quality that I got in my headset was also a lot less than when I plug it in directly. Now this can have various reasons. I read on Reddit that perhaps it is the quality of the cable, but yeah, I'm not quite sure that it is really that. But well, it's not ideal to use this solution for a console, but it is possible. And a workaround would be to use your computers to drive the haptics. Some of the games on console, they send out game telemetry via Wi-Fi or via the network better, and you can pick this telemetry up via your computer and then just drive the amplifier, the pucks, via your computer with the game telemetry that it captures from your game. And this is really an interesting option. Your computer doesn't have to be really high-end or anything, so just a normal laptop that you have laying around is already enough to install SimHub on it and and connect your haptics set to have this setup. So I would really recommend, if you're on console and you have a spare laptop, to do it via that way, and there you will see that it is really an enrichment also for your driving on console. I have to admit that when I first started racing, I really didn't feel the need for haptics. I was very focused on driving good lap times, and I felt that haptics would be more of a distraction in that process. But the longer I have been driving, the more I was craving to have a bit more immersion. This was intensified even more by the electric car that I drive at this moment. I hate the fact that I can't feel the engine revving on it, or that I just feel the jolts when I shift gear. And that is exactly where this piece of technology fits in. There is something very gratifying when you feel your car work, and in all honesty, I don't think I would be able to go back to driving without it. The Trak Racer kit is not perfect. The mono output is a bit of a letdown, as is the limited beta software they use to drive the pucks. But that's where it stops. The hardware itself feels decent quality, and it has more than enough power and variation for your driving needs. The addition of the little remote control encoder is also a small detail that I can appreciate a lot, and can only applaud Trak Racer for adding. I wouldn't necessarily call it a bargain, but the pricing is much in line with the competition's offerings. Availability of it is worldwide, and the ability to add haptics directly when you order a sim rig is a big bonus. The last thing I want to add is a big thank you to the people at Trak Racer to provide this Bass Shaker kit for review, and the efforts of Trak Racer support, Alexander, to answer my sometimes difficult questions. Thank you all for watching. I hope you had something from this video. Leave a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more videos, and if you buy new hardware, use affiliate links. This gives a tip to us content creators, and I will see you all next video. Bye bye.